Welcome to the Achieve Results Now podcast, the podcast that gives you immediate actions you can take to start seeing life-shifting results now. Everybody, welcome to the Achieve Results Now podcast. This is Mark Cardone.
And Theron Feidt.
I love our topic today. So we were talking about journaling with a few people, and journaling is really interesting because journaling has been such a big part of my personal development, my success. And it's something that I talk to people about quite a bit. And we've never really done a really solid podcast on journaling and how to do it.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of people, it can be very therapeutic. Just like when you're talking to a good friend, and you're just talking things out, and maybe they don't even give you any advice, which oftentimes you don't really need that. You just need to kind of get things off your chest, bounce things off each other. And journaling, not that it's going to be a substitute for that, but it certainly can help, and especially if you do it on a regular basis, which we're talking about, that you do it daily, you're going to find that it is very helpful to write down your thoughts and ideas.
We just talk about writing down our goals, right? And writing your goals down daily. And I remember at one point I had a notebook where, I would open the pages, and the left side would be the goals that I wrote down for the day, and the right side would be like at the end of the day, I'd sit down and I'd do that kind of end of day data dump, where I'd get all the things out of my head and just kind of put it all out on the page. And I remember waking up the next day feeling like, wow, like that was a really good day. Because of the things I wrote down and the things that I remembered. But one of the things that comes up when we talk to people about journaling is they go, I just don't know what to write. Or worse, they kind of let their subconscious beat them up on paper, it does in real life. So, I think having, like a guided journaling practice where you have a few things, preset to write about makes it a lot more helpful.
Yeah, and I think some people might think we're talking about a diary, which that can be helpful too, right? Your diary. I think that can be helpful. However, journaling, if you get a little more specific, and of course we're going to give you three topics to get focused on, which you can use one of them or you can use all of them, which will help. And what we found is we use these three topics throughout as we do our own personal journaling, and we found that it does help. It's very helpful because journaling should not only make you feel better, but I think it should also set you up for the next day. Because what we're talking about is not that you can't journal throughout the day. And like with an iPhone, that makes it really easy. One of the last updates a year ago or whatever, it has a journaling on there. Yeah. And it sometimes I would, I'll go have coffee with somebody, and then an hour later it reminds me, hey, did you wanted to write about journal about what your meeting was about, and that's not a bad thing, other than, wow, they really know exactly what I do when I do it. But it's a good reminder. So however you use it, whether you do it on your phone, we always talk about, especially with your goals, when we did this, that you actually physically write in a book using pen and paper, pencil and paper, because there's a little bit more to it than just typing or typing with your thumbs. However, either way, something is better than nothing. So if it's easier on your iPad or your phone, I
think that the phone does that though, because I think what we have to remember is we get more of what we focus on. Right. And I think journaling is a really good way to not only capture like the positive things that are happening, but it's a great way to remind yourself to keep your eyes open for things to write down later. You know what I mean? So, so like if I'm going into my journal and I'm looking for I'm writing these three specific things that we're going to talk about, that are all positive, that are all helping my life move forward. Tomorrow, I'm going to know in my subconscious that I'm going to write about something tonight, and I need to keep my, my brain kind of open and looking for these things. So I think this is a really good practice. You don't have to do it every day, because I know things get busy and things like that, but it's just a good practice to get into. So let's get rocking and rolling.
Yeah, for sure. So the first one isn't going to be a surprise. The first one is something we talk about almost every podcast. And I think it's probably the default one, but just because it's the one that's the default doesn't mean it's not important. It doesn't mean that it's not useful, because I think this is very useful, and it's writing about what you're grateful for. And we're going to give you a couple things to think about, because it's not just thinking, oh, what am I grateful for? Because sometimes you say the same things, but we're gonna give you some subjects on thinking about with the gratefulness.
Me think a great place to start is, go into that day that you just had and write about something
Right,
specific that happened.
right.
So something that happened that you're grateful for, maybe somebody that you saw, somebody that you
Hmm.
spent time with, a
Right.
conversation you had, something. I think an experience from that day is like a nice, like you said with your iPhone, hey, that
Right.
coffee that you had, you know, like let's express some gratitude for that
Right.
ability.
Yeah. Yeah. And something that's probably a little less comfortable sometimes is writing about qualities of yourself. Where did you win the day? Was there a moment? Was there an interaction? Was there something that you're like, wow, that went really well? I was happy. Or maybe it was something that you're working on to overcome, and you did that, and you journal about that small victory it was. Maybe it's talking to somebody, maybe it's talking to your boss, and letting them know your feelings on things. Whatever it is, something that's been on your mind that you succeeded that day.
Yeah.
That's another good thing to journal, and being grateful about it is the idea.
I mean, I think, those days when you displayed courage,
Yeah.
because you did something, I think, being grateful for your ability to be courageous, being grateful for your tendency to, lighten up a room. When you do those things, I think it's really important to capture those and internalize them as not just something you did, but something you're able to do in the future. You know what I mean? I think that's really
Yeah.
important.
And I,
Um,
I think you can even get grateful for the challenge that you have in that day.
yeah.
Because I look at I try to look at challenges as opportunities. And certain ones are, wow, that's huge, and that can be devastating. But you got to keep your mind positive on, okay, what does this mean? What can I learn from it? What lesson do I need to take from it? What can I do to grow from what I'm going through? And journaling will help you capture that and help you clear your mind, because we all deal with obstacles. We all deal with things. If we have kids, we're dealing with things with our kids. And some are mundane little things. They didn't make this team or that team, and some are much more in depth. But I think staying positive, and what does this mean? What can I learn from it? And by writing that down, that can really help you put yourself in the right frame.
When Tony Robbins says, imagine everything's a blessing, right? Imagine
Yeah.
everything
Right.
and be grateful for those things that are happening because they're creating the you, that's necessary to go through this next thing. So I think that's a really good point of gratitude. And then I think just like, being grateful for the almost the everyday things that we forget about. Like, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sitting here with a I'm sitting here with a delicious warm cup of coffee. And, I mean, talk about practicing mindfulness, but just being happy and
Right.
grateful that you
Right.
get that 2 or 3 minutes to sit,
Right.
um, and just enjoy whatever this, the snow outside, the
Uh-huh.
whatever it is, right?
Right.
But I think those little everyday things that we overlook a lot because they're
Right.
routine parts of our life, I think those are
Right.
great.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So this is one of the first things you can do. I think we would both agree that being grateful every day, and writing something down, even if it's one thing, is going to set yourself up for the next day much better.
So gratitude journaling, number one. Number
Yep.
two, and this is something that I've really, I've gotten better at over time, but it's things that inspire you.
Right.
Because we go through our days and we have these brief moments of inspiration at times. Maybe we hear a quote,
Yep.
maybe we see somebody do something,
Yeah.
but I think capturing those moments and saying, wow, I was inspired by this today. I think this
Right.
is something I want to remember later if I look back.
Right. Yep. And that can be very powerful. If you're into art, you're into reading books. I mean, that can be something that inspires you. Um, and I think some people really are inspired by that. And if you write about that, the feelings that you had, I think that can help a lot too. So that might not be for everybody. I know that's not like a big thing for me, but I know it is a big thing for other people. So I think it's important to mention.
For me, like I'll hear a song that just like amps me up.
Yeah.
and
Yep.
I'll write down the name of it, and then I'll add it to my play. Like I have a specific playlist for songs that kind of inspired me or amped me up or whatever, in my playlists. But another practice that I do is like if I see or hear a quote, or I
Yeah.
read a quote that inspires me, a lot of times I'll not only will I journal it, and I have, kind of like a system where I can go back and find quotes that I like. But a lot of times I'll post it on Instagram just so that, like as I go through the memories of and after doing that for 5 or 6 years, when those memories pop up, I go, oh yeah, I remember that quote. That's really, something.
Right.
So, I
Yep.
think
Yep.
quotes, music, anything that inspires you is great to, capture and hold on to.
Yeah. And one of the other things I think is important is, what are your goals? What are your dreams? What is inspiring you to get up? Right. And I think oftentimes it needs to be something big, something challenging. Darren Hardy talks about what's the acronym? It's like big, hairy, audacious goals, something like that. And there's an acronym that he uses for that. It's around that, but that can be scary. That's the whole idea. Is something big. You think of the people that are getting things done, the big, Elon Musk. Whatever you think of him, the things that he's dreamed about and then came to fruition, pretty amazing. That's a person that thinks and dreams big, and it's inspiring, and that is probably a big thing that drives him to get better. And that's why I love reading biographies and autobiographies of famous people throughout history, because it can really inspire you. So
Yeah.
if you're not sure what you want to do, and you have limited beliefs, which we all have a certain extent, limited beliefs, is read about others that you can say, oh yeah, I would love to do that, and then add that to your journaling. Add something that is like seems impossible to you that you want to accomplish, and write it in there. So it is sort of a goal, but to me it's more of that vision that you want to create in your life.
Speaking, leading into, kind of our third topic, but, talking about vision journaling,
Right.
because
Yep.
I think vision journaling is, equally as important as, the first two things that we talked about, our gratitude and our inspiration, are really thinking about things that happened, things that, are in the past, kind of by
Yep.
nature, but we want to
Hmm.
capture and remember. Vision journaling is really, when you sit down and you aspire, because
Right.
what average people do when they journal is they sit down and they write about, their problems, or they sit down and they write about the issues. But achievers sit down, and what we find is they like to journal about what's next. Where am I going? You know what I
Right.
mean? And I think that's a really powerful tool to
Yeah, for
use.
sure. Yeah, for sure. And the identifying obstacles and any challenges, I think this can be important so you know what to work on, right? So you don't want to, of course, you don't want to focus on your obstacle. You don't want to focus on your challenges, but you want to be aware of them, because I look at that as, okay, these are the skills that I need to gain or improve on in order to overcome these challenges. That's what makes you grow. If the path is easy to your goal, you're not really going to grow at all. It's like somebody getting a black belt, awarded a black belt for just doing what they've been doing, and just because they're by time they deserve a black belt, and that's something that we've never believed in, that it's not just time. You have to actually improve as a person, a martial artist, etc. And those little challenges, the times that you think, man, I don't know if I can do this, the times that you feel like giving up, you should have many of those on your journey to something big like black belt, or something else that's big, because that's the only thing that's going to stretch you and make you grow to the next level. And by journaling these things ahead of time, now you can put your mind to it. Okay, this is what I need to do to overcome this obstacle.
It was like writing down, I'm excited to make progress, toward my goal tomorrow, right? Like I
Right.
think that's because if you really want to go to bed and you want to wake up with some enthusiasm, you know what I mean? Like, write
Yep.
that I'm excited to make progress tomorrow, but then, go the step further and take out, make progress, and plug in the action that's going to, which it's funny when people do this, because I find they say, I'm excited to make progress tomorrow, but then they take make progress out and they substitute it with I'm excited to go to the gym in the morning, and then they go, "Ooh, I'm less excited about that." But
Yeah.
it's this, but there's synonyms, right? That it's the same thing,
Right.
so if you can torque it that way, it's
Right.
going to help you wake up with more energy, more passion, more
Yep.
enthusiasm.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I think that's really good. And then, I mean, the other part of that is actually taking the time to celebrate
Right.
when you have those wins, when you made progress, when you went to the gym, when you achieved your next rank, in the martial arts, when you did those things, anchor that, write it down, pat yourself on the back on paper, so that 20 years from now, when you're looking back through these journals, you go, I remember that. That was really cool.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I think we covered the details behind those three things. So let's review. So the first one is the obvious one, journaling, gratitude journaling. And specifically we talked about obviously what you're grateful for, the little experiences throughout the day, positive qualities you have, everyday blessings, basically.
Number two, something that inspired you, whether it's a song, a quote, a person, anything like that. But look for those things that inspire you throughout the day, and write them down so you don't forget.
And number three is the visualing journaling, or vision journaling, and that's where you're setting specific goals, you're visualizing your future, but also possibly identifying obstacles and challenges, so that way you can work on overcoming them, and then writing down uh, your accomplishments. So, in other words, celebrating your victories from those obstacles you overcame.
I love this because I mean, once you set that expectation with your mind, that once a day you're going to be looking for these things in your day, your subconscious is just on the hunt for things to be
Yep.
grateful for, things to be inspired by, and vision forward. So share this episode with anybody you think would grow from it. Don't forget step one, go get a journal, like buy a journal or
Right.
find
Step
somewhere to
one.
journal.
We forgot step one.
We forgot step one, like you got to have a journal. Um, Share this with anyone who would like it. We will see you guys on the next show. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. Hop over to our website at www.achieveresultsnow.com to get your free copy of our book, Ignite Results, 4 specific daily actions to help you achieve results now. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Achieve Results Now. Thanks for listening, commenting, and subscribing. Now get out there and achieve results now.